Let's take a moment to breathe. Let's take about 5 nice deep breaths, please. Thank you. I'd like to welcome you to this sacred space connection. It really is a sacred source connection, I should say. Something that I'm guided to bring forth is to make those of you who are healers aware that there's a new dimension and a new definition in the sense of sound therapy healing. And this is not the traditional sound therapy that you are maybe accustomed to or see as the traditional norm in a sense. This is very much a non-New Age approach, which is what I teach, taking different concepts that primarily sometimes are more so featured and showcased under that perspective. But there's different dimensions and trajectories of certain contexts or certain premises. And so what I'm introducing here is another trajectory of sound therapy from the healing perspective. And so within this context, some of this may sound familiar, but what it is it's a new vibration, a new frequency, which then produces a new definition and kind of sets a new foundation and fundamentals for moving forward within a certain perspective. In this era, there's going to be several who are going to be using the power of communications to bring forth healing and spontaneous healing and activation style healings. And that's one of my functionalities within communications, preneurship, and speaking preneurship is being able to activate and stimulate a new anatomy within the human experience. And with that, fundamentals come in of, again, as I mentioned, new foundations or new premises, new formalities, new functionalities. And so this sacred space-time is designed to start awakening and activating this new sound therapist healing communication format, if you will, within those who are really being called to be healers at this level. You will be the hope and wholeness merchants that come forth to generate new levels of well-being in individuals. So what this sort of looks like is that your voice will start to be calibrated with healing frequencies that when you communicate, whether it is to a live audience or a virtual audience, those who encounter this will begin to feel their anatomy shifting and healing starting to take place at a cellular level, which then gets into the cellular levels. You will be able to bring new hydration to the life of individuals, activate new life force energy rivers from within that will then produce the external results within others' lives. And so I'm going to take a few moments to be present with this sacred source space so that the activation that comes forth, because when I bring forth these activations, it's never anything that is something pre done. So it's just in the present moment. I'll just get the prompt and the trigger of what the generalization or core theme may be for the activation, but not necessarily having the wisdom that needs to flow in the moment, for this, that particular rendering. The power is in the present moment. And so I love to just come to a space where I can be present uh, in the space and allow the power of now and that higher level of intentionality to come forth to bring the accurate wisdom for this particular time. And so even though I've set a premise of kind of the core objective for this particular sacred space, it is certainly open to divine editing, for source to flow and provide whatever context that needs to come forth as well, even outside of what has been brought up. But at the same time, it could very much stick to this premise. But this is a time where we have to start communicating source frequencies. And how that is activated is through going into a new dimension of your throat chakra and being able to connect to the source force that is ready to be expressed. And so this is actually coming up now as the core theme about making that connection to the source force that is desiring to be communicated. So let's take 3 nice deep breaths, please. We're going to enter into the journey of sound within you. And before we even get present with the dimension of your throat chakra, we just want to hold this sacred space and feel the source power at this time. Be ever present and giving thanks for the availability to be able to connect to this stream of source at any time. Giving thanks in advance for the activation that will take place. Giving thanks for the triggers, the prompts, the evoking of higher level wisdom, extracting the higher level gifts of healing that will be communicated through sound, the power of voice, but also communications on all forms. It could be through writing, sign language, dance. I often refer to this, just the body definitely being used as the instrument of expression, of divine expression. So let's just be present with this awareness, being an instrument of divine expression and ready to make that connection to be the source force communicators for healing and wholeness to the masses, and starting with ourselves to receive the activation, the shifting of our inner and external dynamics to be effective in this world. Take a deep breath, please. So as we enter the journey into sound, the sound of source, present with this dimension of the throat chakra, the source force communication portal, being present for the healing energy and the wholeness vibration that is being offered to us right now. Feel into that, breathe into that, the very wholeness of who you are, activating healing on all levels within you, and in your throat chakra right now. For you know, by receiving and allowing this process to take place, you will be bringing forth to the masses, to your sphere of influence, the accurate healing and wholeness activations that's required for their unique individuality. For we are all fearfully and wonderfully made and have a very unique design. As we receive our own shifting of anatomy and activation, we bring forth this greater energy of wholeness to move through individuals, that they will be awakened and activated to the true source power that is within them. So at this moment, I want you to focus in on your throat chakra in this dimension. I want you to feel the pulse of source. There's an expression that desires to come through. It's very multi-dimensional and multi-layered. But there's a core theme of your healing, I should say your role of being this wholeness merchant that's bringing new hope for healing to others. Just take a moment, be present with what is coming up for you. What is Source desiring to communicate through you now? What is your healing hope merchant message in this hour? What is the source force powerful communication that desires to come forth and be expressed? So just allow that to come up in your awareness. It could be a word, it could be a phrase, it could be a sense, it could be a smell, it could be a motion that you start doing. That your body automatically starts to move or sway a certain way. Very subtle yet significant awarenesses that we start to tune into the greater detail and context of what the very beingness of us is trying to bring forth at this time. Of everything that's come up so far, I want you to imagine that you are just holding that in your throat chakra, like in a little container for the moment. But we haven't closed the lid so tightly on it. It's there because we're going to come back to that container when it's time to ground the full activation. But it's containerized there for the moment because as this process continues, you may shift into another frequency and dimension, and potentially for the moment suspend and forget that which came up in awareness. So the container holds this so that you don't have to focus in on that aspect. We've grounded that within the container for the moment. So now as we continue to enter into what would seem to be another room within this dimension of your throat chakra. Multiple colors may actually come into your awareness, and it could be the different shades of blue, but also other colors may be revealed to you, other chakra colors. And when that happens, normally that means that there's also a general premise or a secondary focus from those foundations that want to come forth in the healing communications aspect as well. So an example is that though we are in this dimension of the throat chakra, and it's all about the source communication, the source force communication for healing and wholeness. But the sacral chakra may come up, the orange color, some different textures and tones of that, because it may be that you are here to speak and communicate about the higher source connection as it relates to creativity, and also conceptual energy, to be a great receiver of higher wisdom and knowledge that's grounded within the sacral chakra to bring forth the higher context of the spiritual awareness and creative innovation for healing and wholeness, and how you will communicate that, how you will create from that, whether it is publications, programs, talks, however. So again, if a secondary color comes up, or maybe several come up, there's indications around the general premises of the chakras. And so you can be present to see if any wisdom comes up around that. Another example is that if you start getting the color red, then also with the root chakra, very much a context of being anchored, being grounded in a core message for healing during this time that you need to communicate, that you need to articulate, that you first need to receive for yourself. Please be present with all that's been spoken so far. Take a deep breath, please. So we're going to take this awareness of the colors that came up or anything else that came up around that, and we're going to now put that in another container. So now we want to move into the sound. The sound. You might feel yourself kind of feeling like waves. These are sound wave frequencies, actually, that will now start to be activated within this dimension of your throat chakra. It is the frequency from which you will communicate that will broadcast, if you will, source solutions, source supply, more source sacredness to the individuals whom you will be impacting. And from there, you will awaken their anatomy to receive the healing that you are bringing forth in the context from the general premise of what's come up for you through this process, like a reverse engineering aspect at this point. So let's be present with the sound. Let's be present with the sound. During this time, if you are just getting complete silence and not getting some type of sound, and when I say sound, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be sort of a audible sound. It could be that a violin comes to your mind, some type of instrument. You may see or sense a symphony orchestra, even if that is just the cohesiveness of your own beingness, feeling very harmonized, and you communicating and articulating from that place. But also, if there's just a silence, you are called to be sacred space holders of the power of the present moment. You will be leveraging that with higher levels of intentionality. The sound of silence, it brings forth higher levels of understanding and the wisdom for a deeper source connection. It's more sacred in terms of individuality. Because within the silence, there's no guided instruction, so to speak. It is just you And the sacred source of all that is this higher level in this dimension that's infusing you. So again, some of you may be called to the silence, the sound of silence therapy, which I facilitate that as well. And the power of breath work. Now in that awareness of breathe, come in the receptive mode to receive prompts and triggers if they come up. And as those are being shared, be present with the frequency of the sound waves of my voice be present with what that does for you. One of the prompts coming up right now, what is my sound? What is my sound? What is my sound? What am I sourced to express? What am I sourced to express? What sacred space am I here to facilitate what sacred space am I sourced to facilitate? Be present with this. So another prompt that's coming up is I am here to heal. And you feel the completion of that statement. You are here to heal. What are you here to heal? Right now in the present for yourself, but also for those whom you are meant to make an impact on. Continue to be with the vibration of my voice and the sound frequencies coming through. And at this moment, some of you may feel yourself going to a different language in your mind and your awareness and your being. It's the stimulation and activation of a new tongue that wants to be expressed. But right now it would not make sense to you. But it will translate later into what that means, what you're here to bring forth. The reason why it may come in that way, and not for everyone, but for some it may come in that way because you don't need to try to process in terms of what this is in the moment. You just need to receive it. But this also is an indication that if you did hear that, then you are what I have termed and coined as you are a Pentecost activator. I hold that gift, one who can activate a Pentecost experience, like in the book of Acts, receiving tongues and communications to speak to all various forms of individuals and situations, and not necessarily communicating in foreign languages or languages outside of my my native tongue, so to speak. But it's just the gifting and the compacting energy and vibration of a gift. That means that when the communication comes forth, no matter what the words are, people will receive it in the vibration in which is most aligned for them, and it will hit their anatomy in that unique way. So it's never a one size fits all type of cookie cutter type of frequency that goes out. The communication broadcast from those who carry this particular gift, again, so that it hits each person's anatomy, regardless of what level they're on. They will be able to receive it into their vibration accurately and accordingly. Take 3 deep breaths, please, and hold on the third breath, about 5 seconds. Now we're going to go to a deeper level into this journey of sound. So you can now hear the sound of source in a more evolutionary context. So this is where we're going to bring all of those containers into this powerful now. Again, you don't have to think about what they were. Be present with it. Present with your throat chakra in this dimension. And now just be present with the evolution of source and the communication factor from all that has been accumulated during this process. And we will divinely assimilate this for the activation after we hold the space for a few moments. Breathe. You are a dynamic source communicator of wholeness, of healing, of the highest forms of wellness and well-being. This is who you are. This is who you're called to be. One of the many formats and divine facets that you will show up in as this unique expression of a divine communicator, broadcasting wholeness and well-being for the masses, for those you're meant to make a significant impact on. and activate the evolution of this expression, that all of which has been grounded in this moment becomes uninstitutionalized, uncontainerized, and ready to flow through the source force power in communication format, bringing forth healing and wholeness through this higher dimension of source sound therapy. We activate this for the highest levels of communication in many formats. That the throat chakra at this dimension is open to express source, and to activate others and awaken their anatomy to the truth of their optimum living birthright. Be in this sacred source space. Feel the awakening of a new you, the activation of this new potential and possibilities for your purpose, to provide a new expanded perspective for spontaneous well-being, for those you are divinely assigned to hear, sense, and feel, and even go beyond our common knowledge of the five senses. This dimensionalized context to shift the current anatomy into the new human anatomy experience in this ascendant awakening process. Take a deep breath, please. Now embrace yourself in this new sound therapist format, that this gift is now activated within you to go forth and be the broadcasters of wholeness and healing, using the power of your source communication. And let the unfolding of this journey into the sound of you continue. For you will continue to receive wisdom and insights on how to move forward and expand the work that you are here to do in the world. Take a deep breath, please. Thank you.